Everybody, it's Dr. Maya Alapin, Mama Soul Doc. So, what's the best kind of audio to give to your clients? Well, if you've been listening to this channel at all, you know that the answer is going to be no audio. And I want to explain in this video why that is. Why is it that we don't want to heap stuff onto the clients? So, the reason is having to do with how the mind works. It's not just because I'm lazy and I don't want to do it. It's because of this. The process of rewiring the mind and of changing subconscious habits happens in an experiential way, in a moment, say. So that can occur in a session, for example. But allowing the mind to really materialize what that means to a person. Like, say a person changes their identity from smoker to non-smoker. But what does that mean for a person? Well, obviously, it has truly bazillions of meanings because it affects your relationships, it affects who you are, it affects your health, it affects your clothing, like it affects your money expenditure. So everything about a person is going to like come under scrutiny as they go through that identity shift. And so the fact is that's a process. And so when I tell the clients, well, of course, there's going to be an experience of processing as you go through realizing, who you really are. And so what does this have to do with audios is if we say to someone, well, you're going to go through that and I'm going to show you how to do that quickly and easily. And then we say to them, but also every night, at 8 p.m., don't forget that I'm going to remind you again about that. It's almost like saying, when it happens, it's not legit. Or it's almost like telling the subconscious, don't worry, I'll remind you again tomorrow, as though it's not gonna remember who it is. So there's a kind of undermining effect to these homework devices and audios. The subconscious at the end of the day is much smarter than I am. And what I mean is my subconscious is smarter than I am. And so too, the client's subconscious is not only smarter than they are, but it's definitely smarter than who I am because it's theirs. So the essential point is to meet each client where they are so that we can allow that experience of mining and understanding the subconscious and then trusting it to do what it needs to do with that information without kind of getting on its nerves or annoying it or checking it. I mean, just think about, a kid. If you say to your kids, you need to clean your room, and if you clean your room every day for 30 days, we'll have a reward. And then you annoyingly show up every evening to check and see if it's done, there's a kind of resistance that comes out of that where the kid just doesn't feel trusted and also you feel like you are still in charge of them. So that creates like a dynamic and a power differential. And the subconscious mind can feel that. So what we're trying to do is avoid letting the subconscious into that sticky spot where it's undermined because it knows the best. So if we do our job correctly and ask a good, exhaustive series of questions inside of the interview, then the processing can be entrusted to that person's subconscious. And that's why it's so very important to do a custom session that starts from scratch for each person, because the language of their subconscious will create what takes them into the process that works and is correct for them. And then we can just let them go there. Like putting a cake in the oven, you don't want to pull it out, while it's still baking. Like if it's a souffle, for example, it'll all collapse down if you let in the cold air. So that's kind of what audios are about and homework's about. It's like letting in the cold air. You don't want to do that. And I don't mean to say either that the clients can't reach out to you. They can if they want to, but we don't want to impose on them. We don't want to assign them because that's the whole beauty of a content-free method is they themselves will create the correct and most comprehensive and exhaustive potentials for themselves and possibilities and solutions for themselves, which will expand um, and mushroom in their processing experience if you let them. You have to let them do that. Okay, I hope that helps. Thanks for listening. This is Dr. Maya Elephant in Montreal, Quebec. Let me know if you have any other questions or want me to answer any other topics in other videos and recordings.